I'm getting ready to go on another hike in the next couple of weeks. So I decided before I did that, I would go through my gear and figure out what do I need and what I don't need. And I've got a lot of gear. So let's see what I'm going to actually use. And there's probably a lot of stuff that I'm not going to use. But we'll go through this stuff and maybe talk about what you would need if you were going to get started hiking and backpacking. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff here. I've even got some stuff in this bucket here. And a lot of this stuff I'm not going to use, or I'm just not going to use on this hike. I do have trekking poles. I actually have a smaller day pack that I use. And I got this Thermarest pad that I thought I would use if I did, ground sleeping, or maybe I'd put it on my hammock, but I decided against that and got the quilts instead. Anyway, let's kind of go through some of this gear and talk about what you would or wouldn't need. Outside of shoes, the backpack is the single most important piece of gear you're going to be able to get. Shoes you shouldn't skimp on, and your bag you shouldn't really skimp on either. There's tons of options out there, so there's no real reason to spend some time and explore all the different types of bags and find one that actually fits you and fits your needs. Now, I just needed a bag that was going to do 1 or 2 overnights. So I've chose this Osprey Stratos 50. I think it's actually on sale now at a couple of outlets for maybe around $100 or just under $100. But the nice thing is it's a 50-liter bag, so I can put a lot of stuff in here. But what really sold me was this airspeed back that it has. So what this is a mesh that's on this little firm frame, and it causes the pack to kind of bridge around this way. So there's this air gap in between. Not really a great way to show you that, but there's an air gap in between here, and so when your back rests against this, it allows air to circulate so you don't get that back sweat. Yeah, nobody needs all that. And then of course it has a nice comfortable pad. I mean, it's an Osprey bag, so it's a really good good company. If anything goes wrong with the bag, you can get it repaired easily. It's got tons of storage, a huge compartment inside here. It's got a pocket for your hydration bladder with a little tab here that you can hook the hydration bladder into, so it doesn't slide down inside the pocket. So that takes us to our next thing, bag hydration. I chose this Osprey 3-liter pack. Now, I don't fill it up to 3 liters usually, but I like having a little additional space, and because I might have to pull this out and put it back into the bag, having a little extra space for the water to kind of swish around at, I could put 2.5 liters in here and wouldn't need water for quite a while. The nice thing though is it has this firm back to it, so when you go to put the bag in and pull the bag out, it helps keep its shape, so I like that. It also has this hard plastic handle, which I like. It also has a zip top, so this unzips from the top and it opens up this entire compartment. That allows you to clean the bag a lot easier, and then also allows me to fill the bag up a lot easier too. I don't use this to fill it up, I'll leave this connected. But what I'll do is I'll take my the tube from the downspout of my water filtration system, and I'll just stick it in the opening here and let it fill the bag up. I'll also pull this bag out if I need to, and then I can just hang this up and then put the bag in. Anyway, I got tons of options with this, so I liked having that. So these are a must: your shoes, a bag, hydration. Now there's a couple of other things you would need. Sleep systems, cook systems. I have another video on cook systems. You can see that right here. I also have that video again on shoes. You can get to that right here. And then sleep systems we really haven't gone over, but let's spend a couple of minutes and just talk about sleep systems. Okay, so I'm a fan of the Hennessy hammocks, but I wasn't a huge fan about the little tarp that comes with it. And I can kind of refer to that as the speed tarp. It's really compact. It gives you a little bit of protection on the top, but not so much protection when it comes to wind. So I got the regular full-size Rainfly as well, and I like that. You've seen me use these. I really enjoy the hammock. It's easy to put up. I don't have to worry about the ground underneath me. There are some things you have to consider. You get cold underneath the hammock, those cold spots, so you typically want to underquilt, which you've seen in another couple of videos of mine. I have an underquilt for it, and that just helps keep the draft off you. It's also down filled, so it helps keep you warm. And then I got an upper quilt as well, instead of a sleeping bag. So I modified it a little bit. I used a cinch buckle setup instead of the ties this comes with. That was an easy modification. I did that. And then on this, I put some of the Dutch wasp to help just make that faster to put up. So if the weather's inclement or whatever, I can get this tarp up, stretch it out nice and wide so I can work underneath of it and then put my hammock under. I did just recently pick up another hammock. Now this one is the full set, so the hammock and the tarp, and it is the speed tarp. I went ahead and got another hammock just so I have a backup as well. And again, this is the speed setup. I might take one in the hotter months, again because it has the shorter fly, so I get more air on it. And then it's a single body hammock, where this is it's got 2 layers, so you can put one. It's a Reflectix kind of pad that would go in between the 2 layers to help give you warmth. I thought that would be a good idea until I saw it and found out the pocket on the side of the hammock's only about like that long. And then I didn't want to take it, so the underquilt worked out a lot better. Anyways, that's still double. I guess one benefit for that though is it helps prevent mosquitoes. They both do have mosquito tops, but this guy, being the single, would be a little bit cooler, and then of course the speed rainfly as well. So I got those hammock systems, and then the underquilts that you've seen on the top quilt. If you want to use the rainfly with a ground dwelling setup, you can use something like this. So have the rainfly stretched out above you, and then just use something like a Thermalite pad underneath you would sleep on top of the ground. So hopefully with a mat underneath this to help prevent this from getting dirty or getting poked on or anything. But put a cloth or something underneath it, sleep on this, and just have the tarp stretched out over top of you to protect you from the elements. So it's a decent ground dweller setup. And I thought that if I ever did any desert hikes, which I would like to do, would be the setup I would take. The rainfly, something like this pad, because there's not going to be trees, right? Something like this pad, and then I'll take my trekking poles to be the end post for this, and then I'll take the top quilt, which I got with snaps, so it can open up completely, and then use that as a blanket at night. So anyway, tons of options, and that's why I chose this particular setup. We talked about hydration systems, so I'm not going to go too in depth in that. I do use the Sawyer Squeeze. I really like it. Both the large regular one is what I use, and Jason uses the mini, and he finds that works really well too. But I'll tell you, even though I use a bladder, having a bottle really comes in handy. Number one, I can fill this up with water and then have it to cook with and just drink out of, instead of having to worry about the bladder and then trying to get water out of the bladder in order to cook with. So having a bottle is still a good idea. I do like these Nalgene bottles. It's just a nice firm plastic, but because of it, it does take up space. So as long as it's empty, I can hang it on the outside of my pack and it won't get into the way, and it won't really add any additional weight. But I do like these Smart Water, I think it's Smart Water, yeah, Smart Water bottles as well. They're really light, and I can stuff these down into the side pouches of the backpack. And again, give me a bottle solution where I could fill this up, put it in the side pocket if I wanted, and then if I'm going to cook or hydrate lunch, I could just pour some water out of this instead of having to worry about trying to get water out of the bladder. So I think in addition to your water system, both hydration and the bladder, having a bottle of any type, whether it's collapsible, like this would be considered a collapsible bottle, or a Nalgene, would definitely help you out. So when we really talk about the stuff you need to go on a backpack trip, what really do you need? Well, you need shoes, decent shoes, hiking shoes. Could be trail runners, could be boots, whatever you're comfortable with. A decent backpack, something that you're going to be comfortable wearing for hours and hiking around, and one that could actually hold all of the equipment you're going to take. You need to come up with a water filtration system. That could be a Sawyer Squeeze, that could be a Life Straw, that could be Aquamira tablets, any number of things. You're going to need a cook system, and the cook system could be a stove, it could be a jet boil, it could be just some way to make a fire when you stop at a campsite. And then of course you're really going to need just those comfort items for sleeping. Do you want a tent? Do you need a sleeping bag? Do you need a pad? Do you need a hammock? Do you need an underquilt, a top quilt? And then of course the clothing that you're going to wear what kind of clothing are you going to need to do your hike? And I'm hitting on that one last because this is something that I just actually had to think about for the first time. I'm going on a hike in Georgia in the next couple of weeks, and it's going to be 20 degrees at night. So that means not only do I have to make sure that I take my 20-degree sleeping bag, I'm still going to take the underquilt. Underquilt's at 40 degrees, but I think with the 20-degree sleeping bag I'll be okay. But I need to have gloves, a hat, some warmer pants, a couple of layers of shirts, maybe a couple of jackets, jacket options. So probably the biggest weight for me is going to be clothes. A few pairs of socks, maybe, you know, 1 or 2 to hike in, and then maybe a big thick pair to sleep in at night, or that I just double up the socks at night so that I keep my feet nice and warm. But that's really it. Now, if you're going with somebody else, you probably don't need all that gear. Like if Jason and I go together, maybe I just decide, look, I'm going to take the Jetboil, and he takes the water filtration system. And we can kind of split up our load that way. My sister's looking at going backpacking. If that's the case, look, I've got a cook system. I've also got a water filtration system. What does she really need? She needs her clothes. She needs boots. She needs her own sleep system, unless she wants to use one of my hammocks, but her own sleep system that she's comfortable with setting up and using. And I'll tell you what, when I first did the hammock, I'm so happy. I broke the whole thing out at home, set it up in the backyard across some trees. Actually slept in it, at least partially, for the first night until I got a cold spot and had to go in. But I used it. That way, when I went out into the woods for the first time, I knew how to set it up. I knew what to expect, and I knew, you know, that I needed to make sure that my head was a little bit higher so I didn't get a headache or anything. So I really had to experiment with it. I'm glad I did that when I did it at home instead of for the first time out in the woods. So anyway, things to think about, but you really don't need a lot. And if all you're going to do is a day hike, you probably don't even need that. I've got this simple little bag. It's another Osprey bag. It holds, I don't know what it is. This is it's called Daylight. Has a water bladder in it, which you can see there. So this is, I think, a 2-liter water bladder. And then I got a little pouch that I can put some snacks, put my butt pad in there, whatever else I want to lug around, camera gear, stuff like that. And that gives me a decent day pack. And that's really probably all my sister would need if she came out with me. That's a hint. Let's get started with the season 2017. Let's all do some hiking out there. If it's for a day, a few hours, an overnight, a multi-night, whatever. Let's all get out there and enjoy the weather and nature.